we have, for those of you who don't know Matt, he's from the marketing team and he's our current guru for all things Google Analytics. So he's going to give us a bit of an introduction and an overview session. I'm not quite sure. We'll
both.
Probably follow wherever we want to go today. Let's see if anyone's got any great questions. Feel free to ask today. But I'll hand over to Matt, and he's going to entertain us for a while.
Yep. Thanks, Rachel. All right. Hi, everyone. For those who don't know me, I'm Matthew Ross. I'm from the Office of Strategic Marketing and Communications. I'd just like to start by more asking, how many people here have never used Google Analytics before or don't know what it is? Not a single person. That is fantastic. All right. Is there anyone here who doesn't use it regularly? All right, good. So I think I might start with, basically a bit of an introduction about what Google Analytics is. I know we've all used it to some degree before, but one thing that I've noticed that's a bit of a common trend with Google Analytics and the user base is that people often log in there wanting to find out how many people have been to my page or have been to this resource. Google Analytics is not designed for immediately to get exact numbers of anything. Google Analytics is a tool designed to understand trends and changes on your site. So asking for the exact numbers is never going to be accurate. It's the wrong tool for the job. What it will do is help you see, the amount of users gone up? Have they gone down? Is the advertising I've got out in the market working? So
why don't they track the exact numbers?
The reason, so it's a bit problematic to track exact numbers. One of the things is it relies heavily on JavaScript and it relies on the JavaScript loading. So to stop if a page is rendering, it doesn't want to block rendering, so it always fires as a very last thing. So if people navigate away from the page before other resources are finished loading, it will not fire the page load. This is by design. It's considered that the user is more important than the statistics, so that's fine. Also on the Monash website, so the Google Analytics account that we use, there's a limit of, I looked this up just yesterday, 500,000 sessions it will look at to build a report. Monash's homepage gets 5 million users. So we're well over the limit for the free account to be able to get 100% accurate reports, but it's perfectly fine. There's enough data there that it gives us really good data for trends. So it's absolutely fine for what is intended to be used for. We have had situations in the past where people, and I was dealing with this one this week, where somebody had an ad out in the market, but the ad was pointing to the Monash homepage. The ad was bringing in, it was about 130 visitors it had brought in so far. If you compare that to the 5 million it gets in a month, it's not good enough to build a report off. Anything you get is going to be wildly inaccurate. So I think that's just sort of a bit of trying to give a bit of an understanding about what we can use Google Analytics for, but also it does have limitations. So can I ask, is there any people in this room, do you know, if I were to ask you, your homepage, how many visitors did it get last month? How many people think they could give me an accurate answer within, say, 10-20% margin? One? One? Do you care to say it out loud?
I think we get around 30,000 sessions. It doesn't use sessions.
On the homepage or the whole site? On the homepage or the whole site?
Oh, sorry, I think that's the actually.
Yeah.
Actually.
So this is what I'm here to try and change. So I'm hoping that I can encourage people to look at their analytics, to understand how much traffic is on their site, where they're going, what pages are being viewed, and what's not being viewed. So even though we've all seen it before, no one could really answer that question. And I think that if you're running a website, you probably should be able to answer that, hopefully. It also helps you understand where to allocate your resources, what pages, if they're wrong or out of date, which ones to update first and to put your priorities into. All right, so today we are going to focus on, all right. So everyone, when they log in, depending on the permissions you've been set up with and what things you have access to and don't, this is going to look different for absolutely everybody. But there's some main ones that we do look at. So I'm just hoping to give everyone a bit of an overview about what's what goes where, and when you'd look at which thing, right? So the basic account structure is this top level here, Monash top level, that's an account. So they're generally tied to an email address, but you can give other people access to the account. Second level here, that's a property. So the idea, and we don't strictly follow this for various reasons, but the idea is that a property is a website. Every website should have, again, we don't follow it, but theoretically, every website is one property. Under that, with these things with the globes, these are called views. The views are the different ways, or sections of a website. So think of it as sort of like a lens that you look at one particular thing, and the views can be configured to capture traffic based on all sorts of different requirements. Generally, at Monash, we use folder structures. So each one of these is a folder structure, but you can do it on other requirements as well. You can filter IP addresses and domains and all sorts of things. All right, so I might start with, so a lot of you, some of you might have seen the legacy account. We're moving away from that, so I'm not even going to really look at that today. This here, Monash Traffic UA, some of you will have access, some of you don't. If you don't and would like access, please, if you want access to anything really, please just email me. I'm not really interested in keeping secrets. This account here is what we use. This is the top level Monash site. I'll just jump into it really quickly.
And that's a roll-up, is it, of all the...
No, this is not the roll-up account.
Yep.
So this is where the definition of a website becomes really, really blurry. This includes monash.edu sites. It also includes some faculty sites. This is, it's like one of those things where the top level site probably has some of the worst managed statistics because the definitions do get really blurry. Does a faculty site count as top level site? If you have the current student information, is that counted? What's in, what's out? It seems to have been historically a bit hit and miss. But, you know, here we are. So again, there's probably not too terrible amount of things to show you, but this is sort of the overall stats they get. Not really going to focus on them. Where'd my side thing go? Ruined it. All right. So the other thing I would like to, so I might just back up just a little bit. So that was the top level site I showed you. We also have Monash Faculty and Study at Monash. These are the three main supported Google Analytics installations that we have. What that means is that I manage these for you. I make sure they're running, I keep them going, and these are the reporting that we use to report to all levels of the university. So a lot of the data in here goes up to Margot Burke, and some of it even makes it up to Margaret Gardner occasionally. This is my big focus of my job, is to keep these running, not just for me or for marketing, but for you as well. So we've looked at the top level site, Study at Monash, or study.monash, or where we keep our courses. This is the other one. Hopefully, if you're in a faculty, you already have access to this. If you don't, please let me know. You should have access to this and you should be looking at it. The main thing I want to show you with this particular segment, or this particular this property, is that we have, for each faculty, we have a different dashboard. So who's not here? Business. Let's look at theirs. Okay. So this is something, again, we put a lot of work into, and we've actually seen a lot of really great work come back out of it. These statistics actually, about once every 2 months, go into, get reported up to the study.monash committee that manages what goes on that website. And you can see here, so on the left we have, I'm just going to really briefly go over this. Hopefully, again, if you were back here in October, hopefully you got an email about it. If you didn't, come see me. So on the left we have how many, this is the overall for the whole site, so you can compare for the whole site. How people got to the website, what's driving traffic to the website, whether they've selected from that drop-down box, whether they've selected international or domestic, how many pages were viewed just for that. So this is course pages got viewed that are owned by that faculty. Landing pages. So that's the first page in the user journey. How many browsing sessions there were and how many page views there were. If you don't know the difference between a session and a page view is you viewed a page, pretty straightforward. A session is a collection of pages without a 30-minute break. So in a single browsing session, you could visit 10 pages, so that'll count as one session and 10 page views. And here we can actually see the breakdown of which course was being viewed. So we do have that information for your study.monash courses. And here on the right-hand side is all of the different sort of goals that we've set. So setting up goals is something you do on a per site basis, and it's really dependent on what your site's for. That's why there are no goals by default in Google Analytics. They have to be created. So for study.monash, we're trying to look at what an indicator of interest is in a course. So the top one clicks out to the faculty website. The next one is how many people clicked the Apply Now button. So this isn't how many applications they've gotten, it's how many people clicked on the Apply Online button. Inquire Online button, and here it actually, you can't see it because of resolution. I'll move this back later. And here we can actually see how many applications and inquiries with the breakdown by course. So this is actually a really perfect example of the kind of information you can get if you really go for a custom implementation of Google Analytics. You really have to ask the question, why are people visiting my site? What do we want them to do when they get here? And what are we going to use to measure success?
How do you set up the goals, Nash? So if somebody in this room wanted to get you to come and have a look at their site, how do you actually have a goal which might be, I want to enter an inquiring form and they press submit and it comes to me, or they download a particular piece of content?
I might answer that, but be a bit more broad, as in how do you get to that point of even having goals to begin with? So generally when you would hopefully do this before your website goes live. Sometimes we do this after and it's a continual update, but what you want to do is start off by creating a measurement plan. So you look at your website, you figure out what the most important pages and goals are, and you sit down and go, how are we going to measure the success of this website? Campaign websites are generally pretty easy and straightforward. You want people to register for an event, sign up for something. There's a very, very clear goal. Faculty sites, you've got a future student section. What's the most important things you want people to do there? Or we want them to click a button. In some of the more comprehensive solutions we've got, and might touch more on this later, you might want them to click out and exit using a particular link. So I know some faculties and some of our campaign sites have goals set up so that we want people to click a link to go to study.monash. So that's the end of their journey on that website, and then as far as that website's goals are concerned, that visit was considered a success because they clicked on that link. So once you've got an implementation plan, and that can be a whole process to sort of go through and set up and figure out what you're going to report on, also who gets these reports, how regularly you're going to report on it, and sometimes even if your numbers are falling short, what do you do about it? And that's when you get to the implementation plan of how do you actually tell Google Analytics to measure this. That's probably a topic I'm not going to have enough time to go into in a lot of detail today, but essentially we set up the goals based on something like either a custom event, and custom event tracking is something that we have to set up. It's another thing that's not there by default. Or it could be as simple as a destination page. If you've got a registration form, somebody registers and it takes them to that thank you for registering page. That's called a destination goal. So they've hit the thank you page, we know they've registered, well done. Any questions around the study.monash website dashboard statistics at this point?
No, looks good.
Nope, good. I'll move on. All right.
And can anyone who's got access to Google Analytics set up their own site, can they set up their own dashboard reports like
Not
this?
in study.monash.
But in their own?
In their own. So what I will say is, no, let me go here. So these top 3 properties, again, this is what we maintain. A lot of the reasons, including the faculty ones that we maintain, which I'll go into in a moment, we maintain them we maintain them for 2 reasons. We want you guys to be able to easily have access to analytics on your site without having too much worry. If you don't have an analytics expert, that's fine. We're going to provide you with this basic set of numbers. But we also want it for our purposes as well. We want to have insights into what's going on the faculty websites, who's doing better than who, and who's, the same reason as anyone else. We want to know what's going on. So we want to keep some consistency across that. We want to be able to look at compare one site to another one using the exact same methodology. And which is difficult. Faculty websites are so completely different from one another in a lot of cases. But there is a lot of standard features.
What methodology are you using to compare faculty websites?
So, good question. It's ad hoc, incredibly ad hoc at the moment. And the thing is, so the actual goals for a website should be set up by whoever's creating the website. They're so closely linked. There's no point us creating goals for your website. You're going to know which pages are important and which ones really matter to you. But what we do have a certain set of things. So as we can see, so this is an overview of the faculty sites, and you can see some of them we don't have a tracker on, so we get nothing. There's another one that's missing from here, and I can never remember which one it is. Well, all right, so the IT website, that's just their new website. That's the one that's currently in development. What you're seeing is the development footprint. The one that's currently live and out to the world, we don't have a tracker on that as well. Trent, yep. Pharmacy as well. Oh no, not pharmacy. No, you're fine. What am I thinking of?
Medicine.
Medicine, Jess. We don't have a tracker on yours.
We're moving to a new one, so...
Yeah. Hopefully when the new one comes, we'll do that. One thing I do want to say, and I know that they're in the past, so 6 months ago I was sitting where a lot of faculty people are. I had seen what had gone on in Central Marketing's analytics work, and it concerned me. And so I understand that there has been some issues around people wanting to keep their own stats running, and they put their own analytics on their own site. What I want to say about that is that not only do I think that is completely fine, I absolutely encourage it. There's only so much we can provide you. I've got a lot to do. I've got to look after 10 faculties, Monash College, central campaign sites. If you want to get more in-depth statistics, be able to configure your own thing, please, by all means, not only am I not going to stop you, I will help you set that up. So one of the ways we can do that, there's sort of, I might leave the how till a bit later. I've got a whole thing on that. But for now, so just because these are here doesn't mean that this is it. But I do want to sort of go through what these are. So they are just a single view, so that doesn't have any more cut down versions. We're not going to have a view per folder or anything like that. Let's go business again. Oh, they've been setting up. Oh, and we're happy for people to set up their own dashboards for their faculty because why not? So one of the things that is custom that you don't get in a default analytics implementation, and we do this through Google Tag Manager, is some of these. So these are custom events, which means Google Tag Manager is inserting scripts on your pages to fire events at certain times. So as an example, an outbound click, if we detect that somebody has clicked a link that isn't to another page on your site, it pauses the page going forward. It sends a really quick short signal out to Google Analytics to say, hey, this click has been registered, please save this event. Then it comes back and lets the page continue. This all happens in generally under 200 milliseconds, so it's completely invisible to the user, almost. But it does allow us to collect some pretty valuable information. And these outbound clicks, so again, like we said, if you have a link out to study.monash, we can now use that as a goal for your website. Navigation shows how many people use the top level navigation. So we've seen websites do things like you've got a button in the top section, you've also got one in the content. Which button are they clicking? Sometimes, we've had trouble with this, but sometimes you can use that to answer that question. Or if just, are people using the navigation? Or are they just using links inside the content areas? Document download is another interesting and important one. You have PDFs, sometimes PDF downloads are the goal. One thing I'd just take a moment to explain is you cannot put tracking directly on a PDF. Like I said, Google Analytics runs because when your page loads, JavaScript loads, you cannot load JavaScript into a PDF. So Google Analytics has no opportunity to fire. So if you have really important content that's a PDF, stop doing that, turn it into HTML, make it content designed to be read on a screen, not a piece of paper. And then you get analytics for free on top of it. So those are the sort of the main things that we do. If the faculty installations get all of this by default, it just happens because we have set that up through Google Tag Manager. This here is an example of a custom event. This is set up. Monash Business School has, they went to an external agency. They went through Lens 10, which is an agency we often use. And they decided they wanted a lot of extra tracking to go on. There were certain events that weren't being captured on their website. They have particular buttons in places. So they went out and the agency set up this tracking for them. This is the buttons on their courses pages, and they're now actually able to have insights as to how much those buttons are being used as well. So this is a great example of, this is custom tracking that we have set up for everybody, and this is something that they went on and did as an extra on top of their website. So these are the examples of the ones we maintain. A lot of faculty, I'd say about half of the faculties and divisions have their own tracking on top of that. So this is a really, really good starting point. It gives you a lot of information, but some people just want more, which is fantastic. But this is where the difference in levels of service ends. So this is where we provide this. If you want your own custom tracking implementation, we will definitely work with you to help you set that up, but you have to be the owner of it. You have to be responsible for it. It's not something we can take on such custom work for every single faculty. But it is something that we do encourage if it is what you're looking for. What I might do, I might use your slides, Rachel. All right. I'll just cheat. There we go. All right. Can I ask, how many people here have used Google Tag Manager before? Jazz, yeah. Okay, a few people. So how many people here don't know what it is? Cool. That's what I thought. I think I might just spend a little bit of time explaining what that is and some troubles we've actually seen because of sort of a bit of a misunderstanding about what it is and what it does. So as I'm hoping most of you are aware, so with Google Analytics, the idea is that for every single page on your site, you slap a bit of code on there and Google Analytics does the heavy lifting and starts tracking your pages. How it does that may as well be magic, that's fine. It's not, but it's all good. You put the code on the page, you're done, right? But then you go, well, we want some other tracking on the page. We've got another account. Central's got an account, we've got an account, we need both. All of a sudden you end up with 2 tracking codes on your page, and you've got to put that in your templates. And you've got multiple codes running, and then you've got, oh, we need some custom event tracking. We need to put this, and it's firing to this account, and things get really complicated really quickly. All of a sudden you've got lots of bits of JavaScript on your page that aren't for the user, they're just for tracking purposes, and your site's going haywire. If you need to go to a developer to do this, it starts to get really expensive really quickly. This is where Google Tag Manager comes in. Google Tag Manager, by itself, if you set up a new Tag Manager account, you install it on your website, it doesn't do anything. It's an absolutely blank slate. We log in, so this account up on the top left is the overall Monash account. We tell it which Google Analytics accounts to load, we tell it which events to track, and we also can inject literally any JavaScript we want on any page from there, which sounds dangerous, and it is if it's not managed properly, but it also gives us a great amount of power to be able to do things. Just as an example, a lot of faculties do search engine marketing. They put Facebook ads, LinkedIn's becoming really huge. And a lot of those tracking programs have, they need their own tracking pixels. So it's not just Google Analytics now, you're dealing with the LinkedIn tracker, Facebook pixels, and it's not me. All sorts of other things. So if you go to, so say for example, and I'm sure many of you have done this, you go to Jane's team in central marketing and say, we want some ads up. Part of those statistics that come back to you comes from putting tracking pixels on your websites. So Jane will come to me, I will put those tracking pixels on the websites using Google Tag Manager, and you won't even have to be bothered by it. So that's part of the power of it, is that from being able to use Google Tag Manager, I can put trackers on the page, I can remove trackers from the page, and that can all be managed from a central location. Sometimes we want them Monash-wide, sometimes we want them to certain pages. This has presented a few problems in the past, just based on understanding of this. If you put this tracker on the page, those, which hopefully, this is what we should hopefully have on there by default, and I think it is for the top level templates, it tracks to those Google Analytics accounts automatically. It has been set up to do that for every page, the supported ones that I've shown you. What we've seen is people putting on the Google Tag Manager account, but then also adding the original Google Analytics code from Monash as well. So what ends up happening is the page loads, Google Tag Manager loads the tracker and sends a page view, and their custom code also loads and sends a page view, and all of a sudden we're double page counting. This has actually come up a bit, and every time I find it, I send emails and try and get it fixed. But just know that if you are putting on that Google Tag Manager code, you do not need to put on the old Monash tracking code as well. This has replaced all Monash tracking. We do it through the one piece of code now. And Google Tag Manager allows us to manage that from our side. So on top of that, I'd like to talk about the custom implementations again. So I know Monash Business School, I think we did it for education, I can't remember. IT's new upcoming website. We've also configured from Google Tag Manager to put their custom tracker on there so that they don't have to do that as well. and that's fine. The other way that is possible is if you put Google Tag Manager as well as your own tracker code that isn't already being tracked, that also works. If you're confused about any of this, and that's okay if you are, just see me. I will sort it all out and I'll make sure everything is tracking okay. Any questions around that? Have I explained it clearly? Do we have an idea of what Google Tag Manager does and where it sits? All right.
Can I just ask you a related question?
Yep.
What about banners? You haven't really got the list of the it's a you've got the action, it's a you've got the action URL, but there's a whole other that caused by the Google.
No, that's caused. That's for Google Analytics. So that's what we call link tagging or link building. That is put in there by the implementation inside of Squiz Matrix. So Squiz Matrix has a thing to say automatically put this stuff on the end of your URL. What that does.
Slides up there. The slides up there. Find that one.
Ah, yes. All right. So you're talking about tagging URLs. Yep. So you can see here, this is what it's actually injecting onto your site. And sorry if this is a bit small. This wasn't designed to be on a presentation, but so there's three. It can have there's 5 things, but we'll focus on the 3. The source is where they're coming from. The medium is whether it's a banner ad, paid per click ad campaign, whatever, and the campaign name, which is what allows you to group them. So tagging should be done, and this is where what we're doing right now probably isn't best practice, and you'll hopefully see this change when the new templates come out on the top level site, and then a long way later the faculty sites. But the idea is that you've got a page and you want to promote this page, and what you're doing is you're getting people across all different areas to link into your site. So the idea is that sometimes, depending on where you link from, and email is the bigger offender of this, well, not offender, but it's for privacy reasons, but if you send out an email, that person clicks the link in an email, Google Analytics has no idea how that user got to your website. That information is completely hidden, we don't know. So what we do is we tag the URL. The URL is the way, so we can give out a URL, and when that person comes back to us, we know that that person came from that source. So even though the tagging goes on the source page, which is generally something completely outside of Monash, so it's not on a Monash website, we shouldn't be linking Monash website to Monash website, don't tag those. But if you're getting a link placed outside of Monash and bringing traffic in, we should be tagging these URLs. There is a fantastic tool called URL Builder, which allows you to do this manually, but the banner ads do this automatically for you. And in my opinion, they shouldn't, but for now they do. And I'll show you, so have you all seen this before, this kind of thing? And you kind of got an understanding of what it does? So let me find my window. All right, where are we? All right, this will have some. So the way you find out, so we've talked about how to tag, and the most helpful thing I find with tagging is showing people why. So under acquisition and campaigns, so when we said that campaign name in the URL, this is the stats they get from their campaign, their thing there. So I don't know what these are. I'm guessing these are email campaigns. It's hard to tell. But the important thing is they will know what they are. They tagged them and they're getting the results. The other thing is, so with this report, you can add what's called a secondary dimension, and we can see the source medium. And we'll be able to see all 3 of those things that they tagged. So the source will be LLA. I think LLA is LinkedIn Lead Accelerator, so they've obviously got some LinkedIn ads going on. And they've even been so kind as to put the ad sizes there.
So I think that helps them understand which one is more successful,
Yep.
replace the success based on the replace pages, what's had pages, is it better at the top success, is it better at the top, is it the side of the page, so all that will help feed, so all that will help feed next month, I'm doing some money next month, I'm doing a program, what's that program, what's actually working and giving us good traffic to the site.
Yep. So if you're in marketing or you work with people in marketing, you'll know that a certain amount of money gets spent on advertising. The advertising brings traffic onto the site, but so what? Monash is not a company that makes money by getting a lot of page views. It actually costs us money. Like it costs money to have people on a server. We are not looking to get a high amount of page views. We are looking to get a high amount of conversions, and what a conversion is for you is all dependent on your goals. So this is where, while it's nice to see how many people got to the site, what we're really looking for, and again it's cut me off, here we go. So here's the conversion goal. So this is here, how many people got to the thank you page. So from each ad, if you had 5 ads, you can see which ads actually drove the most amount of conversions on your site. So it's not just did we get traffic, it's also traffic from each source. How many of those per source actually got to the destination goal? And this is really powerful, helping you understand where you're spending money, what's working and what's not. I would say this report here that we're looking at, the campaign report. Actually, no, I'm gonna take that back. I'm gonna go to the source medium report, and we'll keep using business as an example. Here we go. So this report here, the source medium report, is probably the #1 report you will look at for marketing activities. It tells you how many people are coming from different sources. So here we go, we have how many people came from Google. Direct none means we don't know. If you can figure out where your direct none traffic is coming from, tag those URLs, because that's when it'll give you better insights. Monash website, study.monash, usual suspects. And for each of those sites, how many actually drove a conversion? I think if you look at no other report in Google Analytics, this is the one you should be really, really focusing on. I know a lot of people like to look at the page view report, telling you how many views each page got. My question to you would be, so what? You got a lot of traffic. But how many people did what you wanted them to do on the site? To me, that's far more important. Yeah, I think that's all I have. Any questions? Yes. The classic question. No. The long answer is it's really, really hard. The idea of people accessing the Monash website, staff are sitting inside of Monash, inside of the Monash network, and all students are sitting outside of the Monash network while accessing it. That just doesn't exist anymore. We have, first of all, staff are a legitimate audience of the website, so that's fine. Generally, from my experiments where I have tried to do this, Monash staff, at least on the top level site, count for something like 0.5% of the traffic. It's not enough to even worry about. If your website is so small that or is getting such small traffic that you're worried about staff footprints, maybe it's time to rethink the strategy for those pages. If you're worried about the footprints that developers are leaving, so you're maintaining sites and it's like, I'm really interested in this page, it's going to be new and I want to know how many people are viewing it, but I'm aware that every time I'm developing and refreshing the page, I'm upping the view count. What you can do is you can install a plugin called Ghostery, and that Ghostery will block Google Analytics just for you. And I actually recommend a lot of people who do a lot of site maintenance install this, so that way they can look at the website, they can click any link, they can go anywhere without worrying about their footprint showing up in the reports. But generally, as blocking all Monash staff, it's really hard to do, it's problematic. I wouldn't recommend it or even try. But if you are absolutely insistent, there is a thing you can do. So this is called a segment. Every person has access to a different set of segments. I have this one set up. It's relatively easy to set up. You just tell it to exclude ISP containing Monash. You can always contact me. Actually, I might bring that.
That's students and staff.
So what it is this. So let me just load it up and I'll explain it. So we have two segments here, two groups of users. This is, it's actually a lot higher than I thought. So this is everybody in orange, and this is people accessing the website from outside of the Monash domain. Accessing it from outside of the Monash network. So it's actually looking at your internet service provider to try and figure this out. And again, I know it counts your internet service provider if you're plugged in via Ethernet. I have no idea what it comes up with wireless. It's never been important enough for me to get to the bottom of. But as you can see here, not a great deal of difference. It's really minor.
All right, thank you. Round of applause, thanks, Matthew.
Thank you.